Hello and welcome to the course around ITIL 4. My name is Dr. Suzanne Van Hove and I'm joined by...
I'm Doug Tedder. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thanks, Doug. We're going to be discussing with you the new concepts within ITIL 4 as well as how they mesh within previous versions of ITIL, basically the 2011 version or ITIL V3. It's an interesting discussion, and we have many new things to talk about, as well as some of the changes and updates in how ITIL is now being represented and presented. But before we get started, we have some legal things that we need to do, so I need to read some statements word for word, so bear with me while I go through them. ITIL is a registered trademark of AXELOS Limited, used under permission of AXELOS Limited, all rights reserved. The IT Infrastructure Library is a registered trademark of AXELOS Limited, used under permission of AXELOS Limited, all rights reserved. The IT Swirl logo is a trademark of AXELOS Limited, used under permission of AXELOS Limited, all rights reserved. All other copyrights are the property of their respective owners. And our last statement, all text is from the ITIL 4 Foundation volume, copyright AXELOS Limited 2019. Used under permission of AXELOS Limited, all rights reserved. Material is reproduced under license from AXELOS Limited. Okay, now that we have that out of the way, Doug, what are we going to be talking about?
Well, we've got some great things to share with you around ITIL 4. Well, first of all, we'll talk about the big picture. There's some things that you'll recognize perhaps from previous versions of ITIL, but there are also some things that are a little bit different and some new concepts. Of course, this is a foundation class, so you're going to get your fair share of key definitions. But a couple of the new things that have come out with ITIL 4 is the 4 dimensions model, as well as the service value system and its component parts of the service value chain and the service value streams. We've got some guiding principles that have now been incorporated into the foundation course. We used to see those in ITIL Practitioner in a previous version. And then we'll wrap up our discussion around talking around ITIL practices.
So, from your purposes, let's talk a little bit about the certification scheme. You all have had at least the previous version of an ITIL Foundation class. So this new certification scheme, it looks a little bit different than what we've seen in the previous versions. And you'll see now that there are still 2 streams, but they're much more reduced in its requirements. So the first stream that we have after you've achieved the ITIL Foundation is that ITIL Managing Professional, or MP. It includes 4 courses, 3 that are specific to that managing professional. If you notice, they're called specialists. So this is the more of the hands-on doing stream as opposed to the ITIL Strategic Leader. There is a shared course between the 2, and it is the Direct Plan and Improve course. And so that way the practitioner or that specialist, the doing side of the ITIL schema, is getting some of the information from a strategic perspective, which I think is quite necessary. The ITIL Strategic Leader has a unique course as well, and it is the Digital and IT Strategy course. So we have 2 streams. Depending on what your job role is, you could follow either stream. You could also get both streams eventually through the delivery of courses. We still have the capstone course of the ITIL Master. Now, because you already have an ITIL Foundation certificate, pay attention here to this transition path. There is no transition at the foundation level, but there is a transition class for those folks who have achieved the ITIL Expert, or those individuals who have 17 or more credits from the previous certification scheme. You can take this transition course and go right into achieving the Managing Professional certification. All right, so those are the 2 certification schemes. What we want to talk about now is to give you an understanding of exactly what to expect from this course.
So what we're going to focus on as we talk through this particular course is we're going to talk about the differences between ITIL 4 from the Foundation volume and ITIL 2011. You're going to hear about most of the content that is in the ITIL 4 Foundation, but you're going to need to do some additional review to successfully sit the exam. We're going to give you the materials. We're going to ask you, though, that you need to really review the ITIL 2011 foundation. Make sure that you understand that this exam is going to be about what ITIL content is about and not necessarily what you do at your organization or within your practice. As with previous foundation exams, this exam is very fact-specific. So make sure you understand terms and definitions, and some have changed with ITIL version 4. So we would recommend strongly that you get the syllabus and you review the ITIL 4 Foundation volume, because there's a lot more information in that volume that we're going to cover and then we are going to cover, and you're going to need that for a successful foundation exam at ITIL 4.
So one last time, let's be very, very clear. To use this course as the preparatory information for if you were going to sit the ITIL 4 Foundation exam, you really need to have, at a minimum, a previous version of the foundation. Doug and I are going to talk to you about the changes and explain what they are, but at the same time, we're going to bring in and have the expectation that you understand basic service management concepts. We are not going to describe all of them. So we really are looking at the practicing service management professional with a minimum of a 2011 ITIL Foundation Certificate. Now, Doug mentioned that we would provide you some materials to allow you to be successful on that foundation exam. We strongly advise that you get the ITIL 4 Foundation volume itself and read it. Okay, it's important, read it. It does set up the entire content of the future ITIL library, so make sure that you have that information and you can start seeing where some of these concepts have come from. Additionally, there are some download course materials. Of course, you'll get the slide deck. We have some review exercises for you to challenge yourself to say, do I understand the concepts that are going to be tested on that ITIL 4 Foundation? The glossary that will be available for ITIL itself, ITIL 4, a couple of sample exams, and of course the syllabus. That syllabus is invaluable in terms of understanding what the concepts are and what you need to know, especially if you decide to take that ITIL 4 Foundation exam after going through these videos in this course. We'll talk more about the exam and some of the hints and tips at the end of the course, but for now, our next module is around the big picture of ITIL 4, so we'll see you then.